Welcome, wives. I'm Liz, the wife coach, and I'm so glad you're watching this. If this is the first video you're watching, welcome. I'm so glad you're here, even if it's not your first. But I'm just going to introduce myself really briefly. I am a Christian, and that's central to my identity and forms my worldview. So the videos that I present on this channel are gonna be shaped by that. I am also a wife of 10 years, and my husband and I have been blessed to have 4 children. So a wife and a mother, and I count that a high honor and a privilege. I am passionate about people and relationships, especially marriage. And that's what has led me to make this channel. And you might wonder, okay, why? And it's because I think that marriages form the bedrock of society. Homes, families are the building blocks of society. And when homes start to crumble, then that's how society goes as well. Um, I don't mean to be alarmist, but I really feel like, in terms of relationships and especially marriages in our society today, I think we are hurtling full speed towards a cliff. And I hope that I can do my little bit to slow down the speed because often I feel like most people are not even aware of how dire the situation is. So in this video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the state of marriage and relationships today, and maybe give a little bit of my opinion of how we got there. So we hear all the time that marriage rates are down. You know, you'll read an article talking about, oh, it used to be that there were this number of marriages per capita, and now they're much less. And even anecdotal evidence in your own life, you can count the number of people who are unmarried in your life. And if you compare that to generations before, there are a lot more now. And it's almost, it's kind of seen as, well, it's just the way things are. Now, to be clear, I've got 2 disclaimers. First of all, no marriage is perfect. So if you're thinking that, I'll just find the right person and everything will flow, and, there is no perfect marriage. So long as there are people within that marriage, there will be no perfection, because we as humans are imperfect people. And the second disclaimer is that marriage will not save you. Jesus will save you. And if you do not know Jesus, I highly recommend because a relationship with Jesus changes everything. Okay, so those are aside. I'm not saying that as women we cannot be fully actualized women if we're not married, or we're somehow less than if we're not married. That is not the case. The Bible is very clear about that. The Apostle Paul said that he preferred to be single. It preferred for people to be single because a single woman can focus on the things of God, whereas a married woman prioritizes her husband and family. So there, just want to put that out there. Don't come at me. I'm not saying that this is the end all be all. This is not the goal of life. Marriage is not the goal. Heaven is the goal. Amen, sisters? Heaven is the goal, right? But marriage, like I said in the first video, is a tool that God uses to refine our character. So it's just a tool. It's not the goal. In fact, in my opinion, when you get married, that's almost the beginning. The race has just begun. Not really a race, because that sounds like competition, but that journey has just begun. So it's not like, oh, I'm married now. Hallelujah. I ain't got to worry about nothing no more. But it is the beginning of a new season and a whole new course of study. Let's put it that way. Anyway, so marriages are down. And not only so, but even those who are married, within those who are married, divorce is the statistics say that most divorces are initiated by women. Like 80% of divorces are initiated by women. And I am a very analytical person. And I think, okay, so is it that women back then, like they were just miserable, y'all, miserable, just slaving away and like, under the patriarchy, and man, we have been liberated from that, so now we can leave, we don't have to be stuck in unhappy situations, and you go get it, girl, you can do this on your own, you don't need no man? Or is it that maybe they understood something better than we do? Now, granted, I think women of old did not have the choices that we women have today. And I think we are so blessed because there are so many doors open to us. Doors of education, career doors, if we want to do the family route, we have so many choices. Now, the trouble is that I think let me talk about my generation. I was born in the 80s, and I was brought up to believe that as a woman, you can do anything, which is wonderful. There was I never ever felt less than a man. I never ever felt not as intelligent. I never felt limited in any way, really. And that is a blessing. But we're also told that we can have it all. We can have it all, But here's a fundamental truth about life, I believe. You cannot have it all, definitely not at the same time. So you can't have it all at the same time, okay? So with that in mind, I think with the way I was brought up, it was like, go and do the most you can. But unfortunately, that was mainly to do with education and career. Now, the backdrop for this is that for my mother's generation, and my mom was born in the 50s, she was amongst the first cohort of Kenyans to, first of all, go to mixed schools. So she went to secondary school that was mixed black and white, and previously it was a whites only school. And then her and my dad, their generation, my dad the same, they were the first group to be at the University of Nairobi. So like doors wide open for them. And they came from the village. Both of them were raised in the countryside. And in the countryside, it was generally that women would just get married. So she was told, and her father, my mom's side of the family is very large, and my grandfather specifically, and mostly boys, by the way, 13 boys and 4 girls, but my grandfather wanted all his daughters educated, and even my grandmother's father, so my great grandfather, was very much about empowering his daughters. So just a little aside, I come from a line of very kind men. So I have to give that as a disclaimer as well, because I know that we all have different histories. But I feel very blessed to have come from a line, both on my dad's side and my mom's side, of good men. In African culture back in the days, it was maybe more allowed for men to be abusive, like physically abusive, but not on my dad's side, not on my mom's side were any of the men physically abusive at all. They were good men, and they also were Christian men. So I believe that changed them. And that's why they had that way of viewing women as valuable. So I come from that line, and I'm very blessed because of that. So my mom's side, growing up in the village, she was told, you go and get your education. Do not get distracted by boys. You get your education. So bless God, she went to that high-cost high school. And by the way, her father, my grandfather, paid more for her one person, one girl at that high cost school, then most of all her brothers, their tuition was less. So already there was this investment in her education. And then she went to the University of Nairobi, which is, oh, wow. And so even there, it was like focus on school. You get that degree, right? Now, she had a friend who told her that, make sure you come out with a degree and a husband. So my dad and mom met in college. They met at the University of Nairobi. They got married, and the rest is history. So for my mom's generation, marriage was almost inevitable. It's like it's gonna happen. Delay it as much as possible, okay? And so since that worked for them, guess what? If something works for you, are you gonna tell someone to do something that doesn't work? No, you're gonna tell them to do what worked for you. So, new generation, Elizabeth. And we were given those messages as well. So go for your education and go further than your parents went. This is a message that I used to get. Go further than your parents went. So, and a lot of investment in us girls. So we do that. We're like, don't look at the boys, don't talk to the boys. And I mentioned in my last video that in the Kenyan scene that I grew up in, you play hard to get. Like, don't entertain this attention from boys. No, you don't want them to think that you're that kind of girl, right? So play hard to get, put them off, But the assumption there is that they'll come chasing. They'll come chasing. Don't worry about it, girl. They're going to be there, right? And so we use that. And now for me, I come to the US and I realized at 17, I was like, dang, if I sit around and play hard to get, I am going to just be a wallflower my whole life. So that's what prompted me to like, okay, I need to figure this out because I do want to have a husband and children in that order, by the way. I think one thing that I was kind of a push for me in my family, it's just me and my sister. I don't have any brothers, and I have always been very curious about boys. Now, that doesn't mean that I was like boy crazy, but because I was such a mouse growing up, such a mouse. Like my sister did the talking for us, let's say like at youth church. So the cute guys would just be like, quietly watching and whatever. But I was such a mouse, but I was so curious about boys. And because, perhaps because of that, I knew I wanted my own family. Now, I have examples in my life, and I had them growing up, of ladies who never got married, yet lived very full lives, So I've got my aunties that I look at, and I'm like, yeah, this is not a curse. Singleness is not a curse, right? So I knew that this is not something that I have to run away from, but I knew that personally for me, my desire was to have a man in my life because I knew my dad wouldn't be there all the time, right? Anyway, I think that kind of pushed me it helped me not to just go with the flow of, focus on your education and ignore boys. I was like, I want to ignore them. They're kind of cute. Anyway, so, but many in my generation, we heard that message and it was like, okay, go for your education. So during the 20s, it's like focus there, And then when you're done with school, with the first degree, guess what? Go get another one. So go get more school. And then you think, well, now I'll be even more valuable to these guys. An educated woman, education. They'll pay so much dowry, my dear. But male-female relationships don't go that way. They don't go that way. So what happened is we were in our 20s, which is prime time as a woman to meet and like to pair up, to find your mate, in your 20s, that's prime time. Now, why is that prime time? Because that's when you're young. And I'll go into the different values in terms of relationships of men and women, and they are actually inversely related. They're inversely proportional. But that I'll go into later. So went ahead, got the degree, but then you find yourself in your 30s, and now it's like, and the funny thing is that like growing up, it's like no boys, no boys, no boys. Then you hit like mid 20s and maybe late 20s and definitely 30s. And then the family members start saying, oh, but you don't have a special friend? And it's like, oh, wait, when did that script flip? Like, I meant to be warding them off, like, ignore, ignore, ignore. Then suddenly, where are they? Like, where is your special friend? It's like, I was doing what you told me to ignore them. But then by that time, often we're in our 30s, we're not as attractive to guys as we were in our 20s for several reasons. Number one, it's age, and then perceived fertility. Also, I believe that a big part of what changes us is money, because we now can provide for ourselves, and that brings this sense of I don't need you, I got my own. Talk to the hand. And what guy wants to go after that, right? And even if we don't actively say that, there are subtle ways that that message can be carried across. And so what happens then? We have, like, I think of my, again, when I say my generation, it's ladies in my generation that I know, that I grew up with, my friends and family, and the rate of marriage is really low. And with that, also the rate of childbearing, because like in my circles, it was frowned upon to bring a child out of wedlock. So good girls would stay away from the boys, which is good, you know, in the sense that like children born out of wedlock are automatically very disadvantaged compared to their children, their cohort, who are born in stable two-parent families. So there was that, they followed that script, but then they got bitten the butt when they got older, and it's like, okay, there are no guys. And then by then their fertile years are probably gone. Or another phenomenon that happens, and that have seen happen, is that they get to a point where they're so independent, they've got their own, and they're like, you know what, I just want a kid. I'm just gonna find a sperm donor somewhere, you know? So they're careless, and then I guess it's planned single parenthood. And you know, some people, you may be like, oh, what's so wrong with that? But the research is clear that children born in two-parent stable families fare better in society on so many levels. So it sets children up to grow into stable adults. And I'm not saying that children raised by a single mother are not stable, but there are disadvantages. And again, as a Christian, this is not how God designed it. You know, like we do not live in a perfect world. There is no perfection in this world, apart from maybe in a newborn baby. Like, I think that's why we're so enthralled with babies, because they look so pure and perfect. But even that perfect little baby poos. So there is no perfection in this world, right? Anyway, so with this, the marriage rates are low. And then on the flip side, those who do get married, and I know when I was single, I just thought that was such an esteemed position to be in. It's like, wow, you found someone. There's nobody out in this desert. Like, all we've got is tumbleweed blowing around, and we're just like, there's no one. So you actually got married. But then the stats say that it's the women who are doing the divorces, who are initiating the divorces. And I've got my theories about that, but it is tied to, all this is tied to what I believe are lies that we are told as women that we want to believe because they're sweet lies, honey. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies, tell me. Tell me lies, tell me lies. So they're so sweet, and when a lie is sweet, you wanna take it all in, you know? And the lie that we're told is to do with our ego. So I believe the lies that society tells us women make us feel so good. They boost our ego so much that we just go with them. But that's partly why I believe we are hurtling towards a cliff when it comes to this area of society. So with marriages, they're and I'm going to go into a lot more detail as I make these videos because, like I said, I am so passionate about this. I could talk about it all day, but ultimately I hope this is helpful in awakening us to what the problem is. Like, I can't come here with a solution if don't nobody see a problem with anything. It's like, everything's fine, we good, right? So I have to sensitize you first to the problem before we can start looking at what the solution is. Anyway, just a little bit there. I will go into more detail later. Thank you again for watching. This is so exciting for me. I'm really excited to put this out there. And again, I pray that it blesses someone. My goal, my desire is that we'll have more marriages, because as a single, when I was single, I was in my 20s and I had a bunch of other girlfriends, and we were kind of like, what's wrong with us? Like, we hear all these stories about guys going after crazy women, or, mean women, abusive. And here we are sitting around like, we can cook, we can do all these things that we're told are valuable. And where are the men? And I want to share with you my insights through that season, because I came to a point where my eyes were kind of opened and I thought, oh my gosh, this is actually really simple. It is not as complicated as we've made it. And we have made it so complicated. Marriage, my view is that the expectations of marriage today are much higher than they have ever been. So we women want him to be tall and really good looking, and and he has to make like this amount of money. Like, he's got to make a lot of money. He's got to be young, and because like, you got to relate. And then he, like, he's, oh my gosh, he's gotta love the Lord. He's gotta love the Lord. Of course, I should have said that first. And then if he has his car and a home and a really good job, I guess that's to do with finances. And then what else? Good family. He's gotta come from a good family, have a good relationship with his mom. No kids, no kids. What else? Educated. Yeah, he's gonna have more education than me. It's just kind of what I want. I'm gonna manifest it. And the list goes on and on and on, because this guy is gonna be everything we ever wanted. And he's going to be your best friend. He's also going to be like the strong one, but also the sensitive one who cries at these romantic movies. And also like everything, the moon and the stars and everything. But then, so while the expectations are this high, the support for the institution, in my opinion, is at its lowest ebb. Like, I mean, we don't talk positively about marriage. We don't have structures for marriage that are common knowledge within society. It's kind of like a free-for-all. Oh my gosh, like you just structure your marriage however you want it. Like we're egalitarian, so like I don't think there's a formula for marriage. I think that like in our marriage, whatever I do, he does, or sometimes, like sometimes he'll cook and I'll, like I'll take out the trash, or with the kids, we kind of split it 50 and 50-50. Actually, it's just, yeah, we just wing it. Like we just do whatever, and we pick from different marriages that we like, and movies and stuff like that, and let's see how it goes. I love him, I love him. That's all counts. That's all that counts, is that we love each other. Really? How are we doing, people? How are we doing? I would say that the outcomes don't look good, y'all. They do not look good. So again, this is where my passion comes. I pray to God that through this we will get some marriages, meaning a woman who wakes up and realizes it's not that hard. It's not that hard. But not just women who will get married, but I pray that through this channel we'll have women who will stay married, wives who stay the course, because I believe that the home is the woman's domain. And I see evidence of that in the Bible. Now, that does not mean that's her only domain, but that is her primary domain. So I believe that we've been chasing after all these other things, competing with men in the workforce. Anything you can do, I can do better. But then we've left our post unmanned. The thing that we do uniquely well, the thing that God uniquely equipped us to do, we're like looking down on it. Oh, so what do you do? Oh, you just stay home? What do you do all day? Like, do you just watch TV? Why don't you just send your kids to daycare? No, I'm not disparaging daycare. I'm not disparaging working outside the home, but I want us to be sober and realize and prioritize. Prioritize, that's all it is, because I think things are out of whack. The situation is dire, but it's not the end. It's not the end, and we can do our little bit to turn this ship around. So excited, so excited. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.